Multiple Kansas State Wildcats have a chance to raise their stock for the NFL draft this weekend in Indianapolis.
You are Locked On Kansas State, your daily podcast on the Kansas State Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Kansas State, your daily Kansas State Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Christian Rauh, and thank you so much for making Locked On Kansas State your first listen every single day. Welcome back to my everydayers. We are back talking college football, and with a little bit of a twist, if you will, in today's episode, as we're talking about some former Kansas State Wildcats as we prepare for the NFL draft that is coming at us beginning today on Thursday. Before we get into that, though, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet hits. So check out FanDuel.com for more. We're going to talk NFL Combine as it begins today in Indianapolis. It's going to be a really interesting event. They have a lot of players heading down to the Indianapolis to take on this Combine. Of course, it's going to be interesting, and whether you like this type of event or not, or whether you think it has a lot of pull heading into the next level, or if you think it should have enough pull, regardless of the fact, it gives the opportunity for NFL front offices to get a better look and have conversations with players that they hopefully intend to draft. With that being said, there are going to be 3 former Kansas State players, technically 4, which we'll get to in just a minute, that will be participating in these festivities of sorts heading into this weekend. 329 draft prospects are going to be, I don't know if they're all going to be there, but 329 were given an invite for the scouting combine that begins on Thursday. Only 3, technically 4, are going to be representing Kansas State. Out of those 300 and something, there are only 257 picks. So just because you were invited to the combine doesn't guarantee your chances at the NFL draft. I guess that's something to keep in mind. Now, it definitely raises your stakes. And I do think that all the players that we talk about today will eventually get their name called sometime between April 24th and April 26th, that weekend in Green Bay at Lambeau Field with the 2025 NFL draft. It's going to be really interesting to see it in Lambeau, by the way. Those festivities are huge. It's absolutely insane. I Googled it before I started this episode and started prepping for it, just to see the hotel prices in the area. And if you're talking like 5, 6, 7 miles away from Lambeau Field right now, and it's still hundreds, even close to $1,000 a night just to stay in the vicinity for the NFL draft. The demand is absolutely high. So I will not be attending the NFL draft this season. I want to get to the players that Kansas State is going to have, and we're going to talk about where, what we should look for, what some things to be excited about, what some other people are talking about of these players heading into the combine and getting prepared for the draft. And then I want to end up the show with a little bit of rumors I've heard tying some of these players to some NFL teams. Should be an interesting show, and be sure to hit like, subscribe while you're here. All that good stuff right here on Locked On Kansas State. All right, so DJ Giddens, Jacob Parrish, Marques Sigle are the 3 players that played for the Kansas State Wildcats last season that will get the ability to show off their talents, athleticism, knowledge, all that good stuff in front of NFL front offices, scouts, you name it, in Indianapolis this weekend. And I say knowledge because when you think of the NFL Combine, you think of the drills, you think the 40-yard dashes, you think of things such as the bench press, the verticals, the whatever, you name it, right? But there are a lot more behind the scenes as well. We're already starting to see it on Wednesday with the interviews and the conferences, press conferences from the head coaches, the GMs of all different NFL teams. That continues on throughout the week. But behind the scenes, there's also a lot of interviews of the players where the entire front office and coaches get to sit down and have these conversations with these players, kind of get to know how they tick, maybe talk some football, talk some personal life, really get an idea, because they're all together in this NFL sanctioned venue, if you will, this event. And I think this I think that is one of the most underrating factors in this one, and this what's going on this weekend. And to me, I think that is a huge advantage for these players that we're about to talk about with Giddens and Parrish and Sigle, because they're all high class athletes, high class characters as well. I want to start off with DJ Giddens in this one because I think he's going to be, I think all these players are going to be really interesting. But DJ Giddens, to me, right off the bat from what I'm seeing, is being extremely undervalued heading into the combine and the NFL draft. According to PFF right now, looking at the NFL draft rankings, he has a PFF ranking for the entire NFL draft of 115. That is the 10th best running back out of the entire draft class. They think that there's 9 better players ahead of them. And for the record, 3 of them, he is 4th in Big 12 running backs. They believe there's 3 other Big 12 running backs, Devin Neal, RJ Harvey, and Cam Scattaboo, that are better than DJ Giddens in this conference. I find that really hard to believe. And whether you think that is a nod to saying that this is a super heavy running back draft class that is led by a runner-up of the Heisman Trophy and Aston Genty of Boise State, or if, in my opinion, you think it's just a class that is really good, but also has DJ Giddens in the wrong spot. I still think he's a top 5 running back in this class. I think when it's all said and done, hopefully, depending on his landing spot, we're going to be talking about DJ Giddens for a very long time. Looking at some of the draft experts and talking about some of the prospect summary reviews, the scouting reports, if you will, I went through the internet and dug around and found some on DJ Giddens. And some of the ones that I found that were really interesting was NFL draft and college football analyst Jordan Reed talked about earlier in the year what he liked about DJ Giddens, and he talked about how he's already one of the favorites for him in this year's running back group. He said that the short area quickness, his patience and vision his make you miss ability on the second and third levels, completes and pass pro assets in the passing game should be getting more love. And I absolutely agree with that, especially that last couple words, should be getting more love. That's Jordan Reed is a guy that is very well respected in the NFL draft world, already talking great things about DJ Giddens. His landing spot is obviously what's going to be a huge thing for him on where he lands and where, he obviously can succeed. But if he does go to a right spot, I really like what I saw from thehuddle.com. It's from USA Today Sports. And they said his NFL comparisons are to a Chuba Hubbard, which plays for the Carolina Panthers, mixed with a James Conner, who started with Pittsburgh Steelers, really flourished with his career with Arizona. And they say, quote, a blend of their careers should be considered a win. And they're more talking about for fantasy purposes. But overall, I think it also could be for his entire career. If you mix those two type of players, seen as, to me, those scream workhorse type of material in the NFL. And I think DJ Giddens really would shine at that type of level heading in to the NFL draft, just depending where he lands. And obviously that's a huge aspect. He's going to probably pass through the first round, maybe even the second round as well. A lot of people think he's going to be potentially a day 3 pick. And if they're considered as the 10th best running back, that is probably going to be the case. So every team is going to have a chance to pass up on DJ Giddens. And it's most likely will happen that way, meaning that there's also going to be a 32 team chance that he lands anywhere in the league. So hopefully he lands in a good spot so he can continue on his career, not go to the practice squad, actually make some contributions right away, because I think he has the ability to do so. For this weekend, what I'm really looking at from DJ Giddens, I want to see what he does in the 40-yard dash. I think that's pretty exciting because he's known more as this power type of player, right? So it'd be really interesting to see what he'll do in that thing, in that skill, if that skill will translate, because he's known for those power runnings, and see other things he does in other stations at the combine as well. But the biggest thing that I'll be looking at is seeing how he matches up with other running backs in the 40. And I think that is something that could keep him in that 10 running back spot. But if he excels and makes a step forward, finds a way to finish potentially in the top 5 among running backs in the 40-yard dash, if that's even possible for his skill set, we might be talking differently on a national level about DJ Giddens coming after the combine. All right, let's get to the two defensive backs next. We have plenty more to talk about. And then I want to finish up with the wild card, if you will, of a Wildcat competing in the combine, as well as some rumors. We'll talk about that right here on Locked On Kansas State. Attention Locked On Kansas State fans, the future of college sports is here. And it's transparent. Before the Rauh app, NIL negotiations often happened under the table, and fans didn't have a clear way to directly support the athletes they loved. Now, with Rauh, you can get in and be part of the change that supports Kansas State athletes in the most transparent way possible. Rauh, the NIL app, allows you to choose the player you want to support, decide how much you want to contribute, and receive exclusive content from the athletes you back. And guess what? The best part, if your player transfers, because that happens, it's a thing, you will get your money back. It's a risk-free way to show your support. The Rauh app is giving fans control, no more uncertainty. Now you can provide transparent impact support and help shape the team and the future of college sports with your contributions. Download the Rauh app from the App Store and start backing Kansas State athletics the way they deserve, with transparency, trust, and real impact. This is the future of college sports. Join it now by downloading Rauh and supporting your favorite players. And welcome on back, and thank you for making Locked On Kansas State your first listen. For your second listen, check out Locked On College Basketball with Isaac Shade and Andy Patton. Don't wait for March. Be the most informed college basketball fan now. Find Locked On College Basketball on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Let's get into Jacob Parrish. We've talked about him before in the past about, where he sits and all that good things. He participated in the Senior Bowl, and one of the things that we talked about him in the past is many people were already seeing the opportunity of him stepping up to be a potential top 75 player or top 100 player taken in the NFL draft come this April. Well, PFF has him pretty close to around the same spot as DJ Giddens, has him as at 114 on a PFF grade. That puts him very far behind in the cornerback level. We're talking as the 13th best corner in the draft rankings. So that probably wouldn't put him in the top 75. So I think that there's a lot of work for Jacob Parrish to do at the combine. I think he had a great Senior Bowl. Obviously, what we saw from him participating and playing his senior year in Kansas State was a great asset as well. His PFF grades only went up each year from 2022 to 2024, finishing with a 74.7 grade in his final season with Kansas State. So I do think that as long as he has a great combine or nothing on the negative aspects, I think he'll be just fine moving forward. And I think we will see him rise up the grades. I don't think we're going to be just a day 3 type of draft, type of program come April. And I know that might seem different, and it's going to be completely different as what we saw last year, obviously with Cooper Beebe going in the first round. We're not going to have any first round picks. Unfortunately, that's just not going to happen in this year's NFL draft. So you're going to have to grind out to pay attention to some of the teams, listen to some of the offseason workouts, offseason interviews. We're going to hear about a lot of interviews that they were requested, front offices requested to speak to these players. We're going to start hearing those over the next couple of days, and we'll make sure we get you covered either on the episodes here on Locked On Kansas State or over on our Twitter X page at Locked On K-State. Should be sure to check that out as well if you're not already subscribed and followed. But with Jacob Parrish, I think that he has it, again, just like DJ Giddens, has a prime opportunity to contribute at the NFL level, and we will probably be talking about him for multiple years, talking about him playing on Sundays if he lands in the right spot. Now, thankfully, as a defensive back, landing in a good spot is probably a lot easier for someone who plays defensive back. And I think that'll be the same for Marques Sigle as well. But with DJ Giddens, it's a little tougher for the running back level. Speaking of next up with Sigle, I do think that he also is in the same type of position as Jacob Parrish. Now, looking at his ranking according to PFF, they didn't give him any justice at all. Actually, they didn't even put him on their big board draft, which should be kind of a chip on his shoulder, if you will, because I think he has a prime spot, prime opportunity to be drafted in the 7 rounds. And I do think we're going to see that happen. Whether you think he's going to play safety or corner, I think obviously safety is probably more where he leans. And there are a lot of safeties in the draft coming in this season, but I do think Sigle has the opportunity to step forward. And what he did for the 2 years at Kansas State, I think is going to help him out. According to NFL.com, though, looking at his actual combine and prospect report, right now they're giving him a prospect grade of what is a 5.87. Now, what that means, there's like a key at the bottom as well, it is considered an average backup or special teamer. And if it's anywhere between 5.8 and 5.99. Once you get into the 6 ranges, it shows that you can be a traits, talents, being above average backup, close to being a starter. That type of number doesn't translate as a undrafted free agent. That translates to a number that is going to be drafted in the NFL, seeing anything changes. Obviously, his 2-year starts at Kansas State. He played at North Dakota State before coming over to the Wildcats. Some of the strengths that they talk about in the analysis in his official NFL prospect report, his strengths: team captain with a well-respected work ethic. Again, that is a huge thing moving forward with these conversations that they're going to have at the combine. Slides feet the cutoff on the release, heavy in the catch point when he's in position, plays with little wasted motion defending the run, which is important at the safety position, in my opinion. Default is to make play near or behind the line, delivers some heavy contact as a downhill striker. To me, that's an exciting safety at the next level to play on Sundays. And I think we're going to see a prime opportunity for him to make a huge splash, maybe a huge statement. Maybe he has the most to gain this weekend at the NFL Combine out of the 3 we mentioned. Some of the weaknesses they talk about is his lacks juice to range over the top as a safety, a step slow to read and react in zone coverage. That could be changed in some of the stations and some of the drills at the combine. That entire mindset can change this weekend in Indianapolis. Could struggle matching NFL route breaks from off man, needs better discipline to break down earlier as a tackle, and short arms are a clear hindrance as a tackle. Well, his arms aren't going to grow. And unfortunately, that's not going to change in the weakness spot. But one of the biggest things, as I just mentioned, is his reads and being able to react in either his own coverages or off-man situations, if you will. He can change that entire narrative this weekend with some of those drills. Now, obviously, tape don't lie. Ball doesn't lie. We know what happened over the past couple seasons with him at Kansas State, and so do the scouts as well. So if these are what the scouts are already thinking about, they might not change drastically, but if they can see that there is an opportunity to be trained, an opportunity to be coached into a new aspect, that can really that can afford some of these front offices to maybe take a 5th, 6th, or even 7th round pick on a guy like Marques Sigle. Either way, I do think all 3 of these players are going to be drafted in April, but they have a prime opportunity to raise the stakes and move them up into the next level, potentially the next round. I mean, moving up 30 picks or 10 picks could be a huge change in payday when it's all said and done. And it could also change the security on how the team views you heading in the preseason and whether they want to cut you or not, or move you to the practice squad. I mean, each number is a different representative for sure heading into the new season. So obviously, with that being said, those 3 players will be representing Kansas State at the NFL Combine this weekend, beginning on Thursday in Indianapolis. There is one more player we need to talk about that will be playing or participating in the combine, a former Kansas State Wildcat. And with that being said, there are also some rumors tied to him and some of these other players with some NFL teams. Let's get to that as we finish up this show. An interesting special Locked On Kansas State talking NFL prospects. How cool is that? So let's talk more right here on Locked On Kansas State. Life moves at you fast. When you have a family, one day you're watching your kids take their first step, and before you know it, they're off to college. That's why securing their future is so important. Fabric by Gerber Life makes it simple to get term life insurance that fits your family needs. With Fabric, you can apply for term life insurance online, right from your couch. You could be covered in under 10 minutes, and in many cases, no health exam is required. You can get $1 million in coverage
for less than $1 a day. So protecting your loved ones doesn't have to break the bank. They also offer free digital wills, access to investment accounts to help you plan for your children's future. So join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to protect their family. Apply today in just minutes at meetfabric.com/lockedoncollege. That's meetfabric.com/lockedoncollege. Policies issued by Western Southern Life Insurance Company, not available in certain states. Price is subject to underwriting and health questions.
And welcome back to Locked On Kansas State, your daily Kansas State Wildcats. If you haven't already, click that subscribe button below. We have plenty more content coming for you all throughout the month of March and every single day moving forward after that. We have college football to talk about. We're still going to talk college basketball on both sides, men's and women. We have some Big 12 tourneys coming up. And of course, the NCAA tournament run, hopefully leading to a national championship for that women's squad. We'll have you all covered right here on Locked On Kansas State. We're talking NFL Combine here on today's episode of Locked On Kansas State. We mentioned the 3 former Wildcats that played last season for the team who will be participating in Indianapolis beginning today on Thursday. But also there's one more former Kansas State Wildcat that we are remiss to forget about. And for good reason, there's no reason we should forget about him. And that is now reigning national champion quarterback Will Howard. Will Howard, former Kansas State Wildcat. I don't have to tell you that. He will be entering the NFL draft and he will be at the NFL Combine this weekend as well. We all know how great Will Howard was, helped us get to a Big 12 championship in 2022, decides to finish his college career with Ohio State and is able to add a national championship to his resume. There's been a lot of hype around Will Howard after the national championship, entering the Combine, and then will continue probably into the NFL draft. PFF has him as the 5th best quarterback in the draft, behind Cam Ward, Shadir Sanders, Dylan Gabriel, and Jalen Milroe. Overall, that's a PFF grade of 106. That's around where Jacob Parrish and DJ Giddens are. So if you're just counting 1 through 150, if you will, if you're going in that order, which it will not happen in the NFL draft, those 3 players will be drafted around the same area. That could happen. It couldn't. It might not happen. There's no telling how NFL front offices feel. And when it comes to PFF, that's just really only one website, by the way, as well. They don't have all the magic numbers. Now, they're pretty good at it, and they're usually pretty close. And they have a lot of statistics to back this up and why they believe these rankings are where they are. But there's a chance that Will Howard could be drafted as the 3rd quarterback, or maybe the 8th quarterback taken, or not taken at all, to be completely honest. With the quarterbacks and how it goes, it's always an interesting way. Now, I do think that he will be drafted. I don't think that's going to change. And one of the things that really keeps me in there is On3 came out with something just a couple days ago. And they were talking about a conversation about what Fox broadcast reporters talked about. Joe Klatt, if you know him, he came out and discussed how he believes that Will Howard is the 5th best quarterback, a top 5 quarterback in the NFL draft. He agreed with PFF, and he believes that he's only behind Shadir Sanders, Cam Ward. He puts Jackson Dart ahead of him, and Alabama's Jalen Milroe. So with that being said, he thinks that he's going to be a top 5 quarterback taken in the draft. And he says, quote, "As I am watching the playoff run and I'm watching what Will Howard did in his size, his ability to run, his anticipation in the playoffs, I'm going to go with Will Howard from the Ohio State at number 5, with the caveat being that I don't think it's a clear-cut difference between him and those other 4 guys that I talked about." Interesting conversation with Joe Klatt talking about Will Howard heading into the NFL draft and the Combine. NFL.com, their overall prospect scouting report gives him a 6.00 on the dot to be a talent as a above average or to be an above average backup in the league. That, when you're heading into being an NFL quarterback, there's a lot being tied in with that. So if that's how you feel, that's fine. I think he could be a quarterback at the next level. I really do. And that kind of ties me into this final thing I want to talk about. There have been some rumors already, and we're going to hear a lot of those throughout the next couple weeks heading into the NFL draft in April, because that's the fun part about this. If you're an NFL draft junkie like myself, I absolutely love the NFL draft, for the record. I think it might be an unhealthy relationship that I have with the NFL draft. It is to me, it is one of the most interesting sporting events that is not an actual sport in the world. I love the NFL draft. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the fact that I like to play it with the video games when I was growing up. I'm not sure, but I absolutely love everything about the NFL draft. I love the anticipation. I love the trades. I love the hype. You name it, I'm all about it. So with that being said, the Las Vegas Raiders and Will Howard have been tied to potentially be a good match. And the more I look into it, I think it's actually a really good fit. Pete Carroll obviously taking over as the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, if you remember Pete Carroll, other than his USC days and his college days, but in the NFL, he was the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks for a very long time. One of the quarterbacks he drafted was a mid to late round quarterback named Russell Wilson, who turned out to be pretty good and helped the Seattle Seahawks win some Super Bowls. Will Howard could fit that type of profile where they don't reach for a quarterback. They build other players around them, go for a proven winner in Will Howard, who's won at multiple programs in college football, at multiple high programs in Kansas State and in Ohio State, and has that type of pedigree that I think would fit a Pete Carroll offense. Could be interesting. Could be a really fun idea. Could be a fun pick. So something just to keep in mind as we're getting into some of these more conversations with the combine. I'm sure the Raiders have an interview scheduled with Will Howard. I'm sure. And I'm sure we'll hear about that this weekend as well. And I would be remiss not to talk about the fact that Kansas State and Dallas Cowboys kind of go hand in hand these days. With Cooper Beebe obviously being drafted last year, with Connor Riley becoming the new offensive line coach. We have Deuce Vaughn still there as a running back that we hope gets another chance this next season. I think they're just wasting him away and they need to find a way to get him some carries. But will another running back join Deuce Vaughn in that running back room from Kansas State? Could DJ Giddens be a good fit on the Dallas Cowboys? A team that obviously was starving for running back help last year, really starving for offensive help, period. Wound up making a coaching change, and they're going to have find some weapons for Dak Prescott, who might be in a make or break year. It feels like we've been saying that for quite some time, but might be in a make or break year in 2025. Could be. DJ Giddens, knows Connor Riley's system. Connor Riley loves DJ Giddens. He was already talking about him in one of his first interviews as the new Dallas Cowboy offensive line coach. So he's going to be in that room during the NFL draft, during the scouting combine. Does he talk up DJ Giddens, a player that obviously is already being looked down upon behind 9 other running backs? Could be, and could be an interesting spot. And I think when we talk about as a great landing spot for a player, I think Dallas would be a great landing spot for DJ Giddens, because there is a prime opportunity. There is not a clear number one. As much as I'd love Deuce Vaughn to get an opportunity to do so, they haven't gave that to him yet. And it'd be nice, but they haven't done it. DJ Giddens could step in and potentially be a number one running back from day one. Potentially. I don't see that happening, but potentially could. Regardless, could be seen as somebody who could make contributions right away. And that alone is huge as a rookie in the NFL. Let me know your thoughts. I want to hear what you think about this. This is a brand new type of segment that we're bringing to this show, and we probably won't do it much often because we're going to make sure we focus more on the squad, the college football squad that is happening now. But with the combine coming out and us sitting in the end of February, we had some time to sit and talk about this. And if you haven't, you have some opportunity to check out NFL Network this weekend. See if you can check out the 40-yard dash of DJ Giddens or some of the other station plays from Jacob Parrish or Sigle, or what Will Howard's doing in his throwing programs. A lot of cool things you can check out this weekend from some former Kansas State players and what that does and potentially helps them with their next level towards the NFL. With that being said, thank you for watching. Please like the video. Please subscribe. And this has been Locked On Kansas State.